It's late October 2022, the holidays are approaching, and you're thinking about prematurely spending that end-of-year bonus you may not even be getting and treating yourself to a new toy. Maybe you've been hearing more people talking about virtual reality and this whole metaverse thing, and now you are starting to wonder what that's all about, but have no idea where to begin. That's what brought you to finding this video, which intends to help you decide what the best VR headset is to pick up this holiday season. You're so happy at this point, you couldn't help but click the subscribe button. If you are new to VR and this is going to be your first headset ever, then without a doubt, for better or worse, the best VR hardware purchase you can make is still the Meta Quest 2. Unfortunately, the Quest 2 just recently had a $100 price increase, so now you'll be shelling out $399 for the 128GB model and $499 for the 256GB model respectively. However, if you do pick up a Quest 2 before the end of 2022, you will receive a free copy of Beat Saber, one of the most popular VR titles to date, which is a $30 value. Also, there is a Quest 2 referral program where if you use my referral link in the description of this video, we will both get $30 in store credit for the Meta Quest store. So not only is the Quest 2 the most affordable VR headset, but you will also get 2 or more free games depending on how you decide to spend those store credits, as long as you use my referral link. But the Quest 2 is not simply the best VR headset to pick up for holiday 2022 just because it's the most affordable headset with opportunities to get some free games, increasing the value of your purchase. But it also simply has the best content library out of all the options. Now, although you can pick up most of the games on this list on other headsets, Quest 2 is the only place where you can find all of them. I already mentioned that you'll get Beat Saber for free, which is an excellent rhythm game for VR newcomers and veterans alike. Some games I would recommend to any newcomer to start with regardless of what VR headset they pick up would be games without any walking, or locomotion as they call it. As of October 2022, VR is not just a bleeding edge technology, but also a skill that needs to be learned. There's a thing called VR feet, and it takes a while to develop. If you jump into it too fast and start playing what some are saying are the absolutely best VR games out there, then there's a high chance that those games involve locomotion controls and you'll end up getting nauseous and may even vomit from the experience. Many games have a teleport control option, which basically means you are always standing and looking around, but never get to experience that immersive motion of walking. Again, this is a great place to start, but at some point it is just worth fighting through to learn how to use locomotion, as it makes the whole VR experience way more immersive. I'd say it took me about 10 hours of fighting through that discomfort of using locomotion before my brain learned how to adjust to it, and once that happens, you never go back to teleport controls. That may all have just sounded pretty confusing right now, and I wouldn't blame you for thinking that, as it's really only something that's relevant after you purchase a VR headset and are actually invested into the experience. But at the same time, holiday gifts or any new tech purchase should be enjoyable to use immediately. So the type of VR games I would recommend starting out with would be more familiar, inherently stationary games. Games that I consider in this category that I would recommend starting off with are games such as 11 Table Tennis, Golf Plus, Walkabout Mini Golf, The Thrill of the Fight, or the latest NFL Pro Era QB Simulator. But the Quest 2 is not all about entry-level VR games. It does offer a pretty wide variety of the biggest VR games out there. Although an incredibly polarizing game, there is a pretty high chance that recently released Bonelab may win VR Game of the Year and be the hottest holiday VR title. Bonelab is arguably one of the best physics simulators for VR. This is the closest experience you can get to Half-Life Alyx, which is commonly considered the best VR game ever made. But Half-Life Alyx is pretty expensive to experience for the average consumer, so Bonelab being on Quest 2 is a pretty big win for the Quest 2 headset. You can also check out my first impressions of that game to learn more about it, in which I'll have a link to that video in the description below. Again, Bonelab is a pretty polarizing game and is not for everyone, but some of the other hottest VR releases this holiday season are coming to Quest 2 as well. Iron Man VR, formerly a PlayStation VR 1 exclusive, is coming out on Quest 2 on November 3rd, 2022. Also, the incredibly popular social multiplayer game Among Us is making its VR debut on November 10th, 2022, which I have a feeling we'll be seeing a lot of hype for coming up soon. There are too many games on the Quest 2 to include in this one video, and there are many different games for a variety of different tastes. But if you are coming into VR fresh, regardless of your age, if you are a seasoned gamer, or what type of experience you are looking for, the Quest 2 will have something to offer you at an incredibly affordable price. And remember, using my referral code will get you an additional $30, which you can spend on any of those games mentioned in this video, plus many more. Among Us, for example, is only going to be a $10 game, and 11 Table Tennis is a $20 game. So along with Beat Saber, and depending on how you spend those credits, you'll have yourself a nice little library of games to start out with. But maybe you're a real gamer, and all the games I mentioned so far have offended you. Well, one of the best parts of the Quest 2, in my opinion, is that it can connect wirelessly to your PC. This feature is great because it allows you to experience the best of the best VR games such as Half-Life Alyx. The Quest 2 by itself has some pretty big limitations when it comes to hardware performance, which is why it is available at such an affordable price. price point. But when paired with a powerful VR-capable PC, those limitations are removed. The Valve Index, which was released in July 2019, would technically offer a better experience on the Quest 2 when using it for PC VR titles. But I do think that VR without the need of a PC is an overall much better experience, so I think it is great to have both options. That may all change when Valve releases their Index 2 headset eventually, whenever that ends up being announced. I'm guessing we won't be seeing that until at least 2024, so I would personally hold off on buying an Index in October 2022, as I feel it would have a short life before an upgrade is available, and for $1,000, I would hold off a little bit longer. I do think VR is still in a relatively early stage, and still has at least 10 years until it is truly revolutionary. But if you want to be on the absolute bleeding edge of VR for the next 10 years and want to be more invested in Valve rather than Meta, then I would start your VR journey in October 2022 by investing in a VR-capable PC. If you already have a high-end PC and are just now wanting to get into VR and money isn't an issue, then yes, the Valve Index is still a good purchase. And honestly, supporting Valve VR in 2022 would actually probably be a good thing for the VR ecosystem as a whole. We could see Valve becoming the VR market leader over Meta in the next 5 years if the Valve Index 2 can be used standalone. So for the more hardcore tech heads, that is still a good place to start, though I think there are still benefits with starting with the Quest 2 now and waiting until the Index 2 is actually announced. If you are in Europe, then you do have the Pico 4 as an option this holiday season as well. For this headset, although it does have a chance to become better than the Quest 2 over time, I would say you should skip it for this holiday. The Quest 2 simply has a way larger, more diverse library of games to choose from compared to the Pico 4. Of course, that could change over time, and with TikTok owners ByteDance also being behind the Pico headset, you know they have money to get some more software on their ecosystem. But current Pico 4 reviews are saying that the operating system itself is pretty buggy, and at that point, it is hard to recommend picking up such a headset for the holidays, as it sounds like you may have a frustrating experience with it. I would say those are all the best VR headset options I would consider picking up for holiday 2022 if I was just getting into VR for the first time. You may have heard about the Quest Pro headset being the new cool piece of tech, but that headset is largely a business-oriented tool, and you can check out a video on my channel discussing my thoughts on that headset as well. But if you are a real gamer looking to get into VR for the first time, then for this holiday season, I would say try to pick up a PS5 if you haven't already, and get prepared for the PlayStation VR 2 coming out in March. I believe that is going to be the VR headset for gamers, and also just push VR tech in general to new heights. I feel like there is a high chance that it ends up being the first headset in what may be considered the next generation of VR headsets. So depending on your budget and the types of games you play, I would consider thinking ahead and considering waiting a little longer for the PlayStation VR 2. Those are all my thoughts when it comes to trying to figure out how to best get into VR for the first time for holiday 2022. Not only do I want you to be happy with your VR purchase, but I also hope you experience VR in a way that makes you want to get deeper into experiencing the possibilities it offers, rather than have a bad experience and decide you don't like it and aren't happy with it. I hope this information has been helpful, and if it was, then make sure to hit like and subscribe, as it is a huge help to the channel. If you made it this far in the video, then thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.